Hey there, welcome into the studio. You're tuned directly into the Hidden Entrepreneur Show. I am your host, Josh Carey. This episode is so wonderfully perfect for me because I can relate to it on so many levels. Specifically, you're going to hear there's an entire performing background that, I spent 15 years in New York as an actor, filmmaker, so I am just ready to sink my teeth into this discussion. And listen up, all you perfectionists out there. Now, personally, I never really considered myself a perfectionist, but I know many who are, and you guys are all, wherever you fall in this regard, you are in for a real good time. My guest today is Rachel Karu, and her personal journey, as she calls it, is as a recovering perfectionist. I love that term, which inspired her to create Stepping Into More, which is a professional and personal development company dedicated to supporting clients with their quest to unleash their purpose and passion in order to lead a fulfilling and empowered life. Who wouldn't want that? Rachel's perfectionism paralyzed her from pursuing her passion for singing. She's a singer. And let me tell you, I heard her singing. We'll get right into that too. She's been singing for over 20 years until a car accident changed everything. And as a result, she started performing, publishing her autobiographical self-help book, Stepping Into More, Lessons from a Recovering Perfectionist, which is available on Amazon, and also, for the record, has an almost near perfect review status, so go check that out. And she also has her own produced CD of songs, Stepping Into More, which is available on CD Baby. Again, that's where I heard a bunch of preview clips that I was in bed one evening looking at that, and I was just drifting off in awe. It's really beautiful. We'll link to all that. Without further ado, help me welcome my guest today. It is Rachel Karu. How are you, Rachel?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Josh.
Absolute pleasure. So we're gonna unravel everything I spoke about, and I love learning about your performing background because, like I said, personally, I've been there. I get it. I love it. I respect it. But I want to start with one of the things you do today in your personal development business is you help clients discover how to unearth our purpose. Now, we hear that word a lot. People talk about finding your purpose. So I want to get your specific take on this. When we talk about purpose in that regard, what does that really mean? And more specifically, can you give us an example of someone's purpose you may have helped find so we can understand all that for ourselves?
Sure. Great question. I know the whole concept of purpose can seem kind of daunting and like woo-woo. When I think about purpose, I think about really who we are at our core, sort of our central compass, if you would. And the way that I support clients in unearthing their purpose is really by helping them reconnect to their values, as well as to define their strengths. And what I mean by a strength is not necessarily something that you're good at, but something that really energizes you, that you love doing, because we're good at a lot of things, but we might hate doing them. And to answer your question about a specific story, the first one that comes to mind is I was coaching a manager at Facebook. And the purpose of our coaching was really to help her be a better internal coach for her direct reports. And as I was getting to know her, she sort of shared, by the way, oh, I really have this love of cooking. And I've always wanted to do something as a chef. And so I couldn't let that go. And by the end of our coaching together, she had arranged with Facebook to leave for a period of time. She got into the San Francisco Culinary Arts School as a pastry chef, and she went to the school. She worked in a top restaurant for a while, and Facebook guaranteed her job back. And sure enough, after doing that for a while, she decided, you know what, I love doing this. I don't need to do it full time though. So she went back to Facebook, and now she's selling as a pastry chef. She has a side business. So it was just a wonderful story.
That's amazing. So finding one's purpose can help reignite all of these emotions and feelings to help you feel more fulfilled, including finding a side or front business. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I think it really helps when we define that compass for ourselves and our purpose and our passion. It helps us be more integrated as a human being so that we're not so compartmentalized, and we can actually start bringing more of who we are into all aspects of our life.
Some months ago, one of the books that came to mind as you were talking that really talks about it in a very similar way. I don't know if you're familiar with the book The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and he talks about what he calls our upper limit of good feelings. And typically when we're moving along life and we hit a certain level of success, our internal thermostat, as he calls it, will reach that upper limit, and we will do everything we can to remain below that. But the point I want to connect was how you were talking about finding our purpose. He calls it your zone of genius, and that's when you can really figure out what, as you said, what just lights you up.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's much happier and fulfilling place to be when we're living from that place, for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned the word passion. In a similar question like purpose, I want to get your take on the word passion. Is that something we can, at will, learn to turn on and off? Or is it something that either is or isn't dependent on the surrounding circumstances of our life?
Awesome question. I think that passion is something innate within us. Not to say that the form or the flavor of the passion can't change or evolve over time. I do think it's directly linked to our purpose. So when we have, for example, one of my values is around creative self-expression. And then my passion are different avenues to honor that value. So whether that be through singing, through coaching, through being a speaker, through being president of the International Coach Federation of Los Angeles, where I have a platform to express, all of these things are different avenues for me to really honor that value and connect to my passion.
You probably mentioned it, or I should say explained it right there, but you said creative self-expression. What is that?
For me personally, it's honoring my ability to express in an authentic manner who I am and what's present for me. So that may take the form of singing. And the reason I love to sing is because when I'm in the zone, it doesn't always happen, but when I'm in the zone, I am authentically expressing myself. And it's a venue where I can express all kinds of emotion that I might not feel as comfortable in a day-to-day. So I might be angry, I might be really sad, and I enjoy not only for myself having that freedom to creatively self-express, but also giving permission to the audience for them to have their own authentic emotional reaction and experience too.
What do you say to somebody who says, well, yeah, sure, I'd love to creatively express myself, but guess what? My life sucks. I'm busy beyond belief. I'm overwhelmed. I have 4 kids nagging at me. I barely have money to make ends meet. I have no time to even give that thought. Where do we begin?
Yeah, so really, I'm a big believer in baby steps. And I much rather people take on something small and impactful than try to take on too much and either not do it or not do it well, beat themselves up and forget about the whole thing. So if somebody were really in that kind of a dire situation, of course we need to start, if you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we would start with more of the security, helping them get more financially solid, career on track, and that's obviously crucial. Once they feel that they're a little bit more stable, then we'd start to look for, okay, perhaps we want to embark in what I call weekly planning. And as part of that weekly planning, where might be there's some room for fun and what I like to call recreation. And that recreation is really how can you be honoring those values? So if you have a value around creative self-expression, who knows, maybe it's just even like finding some, if you're a singer like me, maybe it's putting on YouTube some karaoke tunes and just singing for yourself. If you're a writer, maybe it's taking 10 minutes in a morning and journaling whatever your heart desires. So these things don't have to take an enormous amount of time. I think that people, though, feel they put this extra pressure on themselves and they put unrealistic expectations on themselves, and they connect the idea of success as meaning it has to be something that either is making money or that, you know, is a public forum. And I think part of that journey for all of us is learning, when you identify your purpose and passion, how do you really want to honor it and perhaps redefine what success means for you?
So true. And I think so many people, and I was certainly in this category for all too long. When you hear about success, like you said, we all have to redefine what that means and what it looks like for us personally. Because I think the trap is to think success is for everybody else around me and some grand place that I could never reach. And right there, you're already screwed, right?
Totally. Yeah. So, and a big part of the journey, I think, is learning to validate ourselves internally versus continually seeking that external validation. And that is a lifelong journey.
I've been there for decades. That was my number one of dozens of things that were holding me back, always looking for the perfect person to validate me, or the perfect thing or sale or scenario or pat on the back. And first of all, you're never going to get those because you're not able to see it, to bring yourself to those moments anyway. So there's a whole irony wrapped up in that with a great big bow.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
It's been said that you, and I know we spoke about this, you're talking about it, you're a singer. And again, I'm going to link to the CD Baby because people can hear all those preview clips, which are, they're really gorgeous. I love all those. A lot of show tunes, a lot of some standards, really some awesome stuff. So apparently you wanted to be a performer for as long as you can remember. You could sing before you could speak. But then also you say you were born with gremlins, those inner voices that hate change and demand the status quo. What are gremlins?
Yeah, so gremlins are those little voices inside of our head that are holding us back in some way or sabotaging us in some way. And actually, there's research out there that says we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and the majority of those thoughts are negative and subconscious. So those gremlins are these tapes playing in our head that we might not even be aware of consciously. And of course, the feelings that we have then tie into the thoughts, which then tie into our actions. So really a lot of my work that I love as a coach is sort of like going to the gym. On the one hand, we want to give voice to those gremlins. We don't want to push them away. We want to understand them. Perhaps in the past they served us in some way, but they're not serving us now. And then on the other hand, we want to build the muscle of really getting clear on our purpose and passion so that when the gremlins come up, now we're at more of a conscious choice point and we can acknowledge the gremlin without getting sucked into it and say, thank you very much. Can you please go to the back seat and let me ask myself what's going to best serve me right now?
Yeah, and I love how you put it like going to the gym, because today that's exactly how I approach every aspect of my personal development journey. I say that I have to treat every moment of every day like I'm in recovery, and by most definition, I am, and trying to remain out of those non-serving destructive habits. Today, I have to treat it like I'm deliberate and conscious, like you're going to the gym or you're in recovery, however you want to identify it for yourself. And that helps me live a peaceful, calm life where once I was the look of angst. I mean, I think I made Woody Allen look calm. I don't know.
That's funny.
So I keep saying I so much admire and appreciate your story. Let's get in to the Rachel Karu journey, starting from the beginning. Take us back to your childhood. What was life like growing up as a young child?
Yeah, life was challenging. I moved a lot as a child. My dad was an executive, and pretty much anytime he had a business opportunity, we would move. And you had mentioned that I could sing before I could speak. Actually, my late great Aunt Rose had shared with me that before I could speak, I was singing. So this was just a natural part of who I was. And actually for me, it was a beautiful outlet because in addition to all the moves, my parents had very high expectations. They have their own form of perfectionism, each of them in a different way. And because I was in that quest to get that external validation initially from them and later from others, I very much was in that place of, oh, how could I please them? And what I learned through singing was that was one of the few areas of my life where they were okay with me expressing myself in a not so perfect manner. And so that gave me a chance and permission to be able to really allow myself to connect to whatever emotions I was having and to be able to share that with others.
You said that you moved a lot as a child, and you said that whenever your father found a different business opportunity, you were moving. Was he successful?
Yes, he was very successful.
And I guess that was part of what his desire for your perfection stemmed from. How early of an age do you really remember singing confidently?
My first talent show, I was 8 or 9. I was living in Oklahoma, and I had learned about this opportunity. And I just decided, okay, I'm going to do this. And actually, I don't know if you remember the Leo Sayers song, When I Need You. I worked on it by myself in the living room, just listening to it over and over again. And then I have a total recall of that performance and getting up there and really singing with all my heart.
And how did it go? It gave you all the confidence you hoped?
I don't know if it gave me all the confidence, but I felt really, I felt authentic and it felt really great.
So you give me 1 second.